koko ajan, eli meillä on hyvin tärkeää se, että se tekninen ratkaisu, mitä asiakkaalle toimitetaan, on soveltuva ja sopiva, ja siinä pyritään sitten tukemaan asiakkaita. Tässä ehkä vähän vielä näitä lukuja ja tietoja tosiaan, niin Suomen toiminta käynnistyi 2019. Itse olin sitä perustamassa tänne 2019 kesällä, aloitin elokuussa virallisesti, ja nyt sitten ensimmäinen täystoimintavuosi on takana, ja aika ihan mukavasti päästiin kyllä vauhtiin tuossa ensimmäisenäkin vuotena, että noin 30 000 paneelia saatiin myytyä asiakkaille Suomessa 19-20 toimintavuonna, ja noin 2,5 miljoonaa, vähän reilu, oli Suomen toiminnan liikevaihto, ja konsernissa semmoinen 13 miljoonaa oli suunnilleen. Eli siinä oli aika mukavaa kasvua. Ensimmäinen toimintavuosi Ruotsissa oli semmoinen vähän reilu 6 miljoonaa, että siinä noin niin kuin tuplaantui suunnilleen sitten liikevaihto. Tietysti markkina kasvaa tässä mukana, niin olemme vahvasti tässä kasvussa mukana sitten. Ja nyt sitten toi Norjan toiminta on myöskin tässä ihan nyt aloitteilla ja suunnitteilla, että lähdetään myöskin sinne sitten myymään, ja itse asiassa on jonkinlaista kauppaa sinne jo tehtykin. Että varasto, sen verran voin kertoa, varastohan meillä tällä hetkellä on Ruotsissa päävarasto. Nyt meillä on hyvin lähiaikoina tulossa myös Suomeen varasto, näillä näkymin kesäkuun aikana tulisi tuotantoon, eli saadaan paikallinen varasto. Sitten pystytään palvelemaan vähän nopeammin ja rivakammin myöskin paikallisia asiakkaita täällä, ja sitten tämä siihen liittyvä suomenkielinen verkkokauppa myöskin sitten näillä näkymin kesäkuussa saataisiin niin tuotantoon sitten. Ja siitä kyllä ilmoitamme sitten tarkemmin vielä, eli silloin hyvin vahvasti Senergialla on sitten suomalaiset ja suomenkieliset kasvot, ja tietysti minä ja Kalle tässä mukana olemme sitten vahvasti asiakkaita palvelemassa. Varastosta sen verran, eli Vantaalla sijaitsee, tulee olemaan tuossa aika lähellä tuossa Tammiston alueella, mutta tosiaan niin, että semmoinen ollaan katsottu logistisesti hyvä sijainti, että pystytään sinne nopeasti sitten lyhyellä varoitusajalla asiakkaita palvelemaan kuitenkin selvästi nopeammin, mitä Ruotsin varastosta tällä hetkellä. Mutta sanotaan näin, että meillä on kuitenkin kilpailuetuna ehkä se, että vahvasti pohjoismainen toimija, meillä alkaa kuitenkin volyymit olemaan isoja ja pystytään vähän sitten asiakkaita palvelemaan yli rajojen ja sitten myöskin useamman varaston kautta, eli asiakas saa meidän verkkokaupassa näkymään sitten meidän kaikkien varastojen tilanteeseen, eli pystytään siinä kyllä sitten hyvin palvelemaan, ja varsinkin tämmöisessä maailmantilanteessa, missä logistiikka on haastavaa ja saatavuus, niin tällä on niin kuin iso merkitys alkaa olemaan jo, että kun tavaraa saatavuuden varmistaminen on todella tärkeää tässä markkinatilanteessa. Eli tuossa olikin tämä tosiaan erottautumistekijät, eli vahva asiantuntijuus nimenomaan aurinkosähkössä ja sitten vahva tekninen tuki, asiakaspalvelu ja laaja koulutustarjonta. Tämä koulutustarjontaa varmasti Suomessakin tullaan nyt vielä vähän laajentamaan sitten jatkossa se, mitä nyt tässä koronatilanne sallii, mutta näitä webinaareja varmasti pystytään ainakin järjestämään nyt lähitulevaisuudessa. Että näin. Ja sitten tuossa mainitsen vielä, että meillä on siis, tämä toistaiseksi Ruotsin osuudessa on tämä tekniikkablogi meillä jossa julkaistaan alaan liittyviä artikkeleita. Sitten meillä on tämmöinen asennuskäsikirja, jossa itse asiassa tässä meidän päivän pääkouluttaja Tim tässä on ollut kirjailijana ja tuottajana, niin se löytyy tämmöinen Montage Handbook-niminen versio siitä, ja se on varsin kattava opus, ja tämäkin on nyt sitten tarkoitus lähitulevaisuudessa kääntää suomen kielelle, että saataisiin se ulos myöskin tänne markkinalle, mutta tämmöinen löytyy jo tällä hetkellä itse asiassa ruotsiksi, ja se voidaan halutessaan, niin voimme, jos joku haluaa sen jo nyt katsoa läpi toisella kotimaisella, niin mielellään tänne viestiä, niin toimitamme sen kyllä ihan vaikka saman tienkin. Että tuossa vielä vähän yhteystietoja, eli tosiaan itse toimipaikkana Helsinki, ja Kalle on sitten aloittanut meillä helmikuussa, ja Kotka toimipisteenä, mutta siinä niin kuin käytännössä palvelemme asiakkaita ympäri Suomea sitten, ja ehkä niin kuin tietysti ollaan vähän jaettu näitä asiakkuuksia sitten Kallen kanssa, mutta hyvin joustavasti tässä kyllä eri puolella maata voidaan sitten liikkua. Näin, kiitoksia tässä vaiheessa. Haluatko Kalle vielä muutamalla sanalla täydentää, ehkä itsestäsi vielä kertoa muutama sana vai miten?
Joo, voin mä tässä lyhyesti esittäytyä myös. Eli Kalle Salli, ja niin kuin Lauri sanoi, niin me toistaiseksi vielä tässä kahdestaan tehdään Suomessa tätä toimintaa, ja itsellä on teknisen tukkukaupan kokemusta tuolta 2013 vuodesta asti, ja siinä mielessä hyvin tuttu alana myös tämä aurinko, ja tehty myös itse asennushommia aikanaan, niin osaa vähän katsoa asioita myös siltä perspektiiviltä. Mutta ehkä me nyt annetaan vuoro sitten Timille ja aloitetaan koulutus.
Yes. Okay, now we switch to Tim, please, and we start to I will switch the presentation to you.
Thank you very much, Lauri, and thank you for the presentation in Finnish. You do that much better than me. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Great having this many people attending. My name is Tim, and I will guide you through the next, I think will be around for 90 more minutes. I will speak either Swedish or English, and I guess that you prefer English. If you have any specific questions in Finnish, then my Finnish colleagues, Kalle and Lauri, will try to help me and answer your questions. We will speak about Huawei this morning. We will speak about inverters. We will see how their inverter portfolio, everything from the smaller residential inverters up to the megawatt project inverters, will be suitable for you. We will speak about a few different things. We will start from the beginning by just getting to know Huawei a little bit more. I'm pretty sure that you have heard about their cell phones, their computers, etc. But what's not known for everybody is that Huawei is one of the world's biggest inverter manufacturers. They produce a ton of inverters. They are extremely big in the world and selling to almost all countries in the world. But it was not that many years ago that Huawei was not selling in neither Finland or Sweden. But Senergia has changed that. And we hope that we can bring you some new tools to your market and to your customers and help you grow. So we will speak a little bit extra about a few things. We will speak about the residential solution, which is around up to 10 kilowatts, where we have a suitable solution for not only inverters, but also with optimizers and with the new Luna battery. And then in the end, we will focus a little bit on the commercial side, the bigger inverters, and also see how you should connect them in the best way possible. So we will start right away. And please, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to unmute yourself and take it verbally. Otherwise, you can use the chat function. You could write in either English or in Finnish, and then my colleagues will help you. So just fasten your seatbelts, and we will start right off by describing Huawei a little bit in numbers. As you can see here, Huawei is one really, really big company. They're working in more than 170 countries and regions, and you could see that their turnover and their increase in sales are increasing for each year. There are 188,000 people working there. And it's actually quite funny. I'm located here in Stockholm in Sweden. And actually one of Huawei's research institutes is located here, which means that actually people in Sweden have been developing software for the inverters and the control algorithms for all the inverters for Huawei. I'm born and raised in a quite small town in Sweden. It's almost the same residents as its R&D people working for Huawei. It's almost the same amount, 80,000 people, which means that many of the people working for Huawei are working with improving the products, and that's something that I will get back to you and we will see like it's quite many things and small things that are putting together to a really cool and interesting product. One thing that you will notice when you do your first installation of a Huawei inverter is that it's extremely light. It's extremely lightweight. It is very, very smart engineer, not too much extra things. They have removed what is not necessary and kept what is necessary, which makes the inverter as a whole extremely easy to install. One person only. It's very easy to lift up and easy to mount. Also, this is true for not only Huawei inverters, but many of the inverter manufacturers in the world have now, they have removed the LCD screens. They have no extra buttons. You don't need to unscrew the lid and do the connections on the inside of the inverter. Everything is connected, screwless wiring from the outside, which means that you will use the MC4 connectors to connect to your DC, and you will have a fast connector for your AC connection. It's standard, it's very easy, and it's very reliable, and extremely hard to do something wrong, which makes it proof of doing stupid things. Also this, that when you remove the LCD screen, you don't have any buttons. The smaller inverters, actually, they only have one inverter which has active cooling. So all the other inverters, they have natural cooling, which means that they don't have any fans spinning around, both for making noise, that I will get back to, but also all the moving parts in an inverter it's actually a risk. It's something that will wear and tear during the maybe 15 years of its operational life. So without all these extra things, we will have a more reliable inverter. And this is actually verified by third parties. And the inverter fail rate is extremely low, below 0.5%. And also you can see here the verified failure rates, which is extremely impressive. Huawei is actually quite famous in the telecom industry for building extremely robust and strong hardware, and their inverter solution is just a proof of that. And as you know, Huawei is extremely big when it comes to telecom products, for mobile phones, for computers, etc. And they have actually taken many of their expertise and already done developments and applying them in solar. So for example, what you can see here in the middle, the Huawei RRU, which is a telecom component. The heat sink on the back of this component have been developed for many, many years. Huawei has developed their telecom experience in the last 30 years. The heat sink here on the back, which you can see on the inverter, if you look very closely, you can see that the distance between different parts in the heat sinks are different. We see it's a bit thicker on your right. And if we look at this with a thermal camera, you can actually see that this is where the heat needs to be dissipated more quickly than in the other parts. So they have optimized the heat sink and also the amount of material needed for both cost efficiency and for engineering purposes. As you all know, all inverters, they like when it's cool. All electronics does. And Huawei inverters, they can handle up to 45 degrees in a working temperature before they start degrading and reducing their output power. Also, Huawei is well known for its software experience. And what's interesting Huawei is that they have taken their experience from many different fields, from the telecom industry. I explained on the last slide. Here you can see how they have managed to take IT solution and engineering skills that they have put together using for analyzing the strings. this is like they are measuring the IV curves, the current and the voltage of each string. They are using their software to analyze the current and voltage. Then they are generating these graphs, and then they are analyzing the graphs and see which problems do we might have. This means that they could, by software, analyze megawatt-sized parks, analyzing and find different types of errors. For example, PID. They could find diode faults. They could identify hotspots by just looking at the data. And this is extremely interesting as the PV market grows. You will have more and more installations. You will have more demanding customers. You need to take care of all your installations. You have warranty. You have a lot of things and quite much responsibility. And to be able to verify that your PV sites are working as they should, you need to take care of them and always follow up and analyze them. And by using this software solution, you will do this in a very quick and efficient manner. So you can scan all strings in 2 minutes. And after you have scanned all strings, then you have identified which strings might have a problem. And then you could go with your technicians on site and then start doing your search for errors. So the operation and maintenance here will be extremely easy. Also, when it comes to efficiency, Huawei is an industry leader. Here you can see that many of the traditional string inverters are very efficient. But if we start comparing them and see who is doing a little bit better, the Huawei inverter is in the top region. This doesn't sound like much, but just having a few tenths of a percent for each year during a 30-year period of your installation, you will have a lot more kilowatt hours. This is done by combining the hardware and the software to obtaining these fantastic results. And as I told you before, the Huawei inverters do not have fans, which means that they are extremely quiet, library quiet, we can call them. I mean, you usually don't install your inverter where you sleep. That is not a good idea. But in many other parts in your home or around your garden, you still want to keep it quiet. You don't want to have something noisy in your backyard. And the Huawei inverters is below 30 decibel, which is very quiet. So if we don't have a fan, we don't have a fan sounding. That's as simple as that. Also, when it comes to safety, Huawei is an industry leader. You can actually download this. This is something that needs to get definitely more attention. I talk about this all the time to the Swedish installers, and it's the same thing in Finland. The safety of the PV system is everyone's top priority, and Huawei's way of dealing with the safety is handling the safety on the DC side of the inverter. It's on the DC side where we can have these arching. We have the high voltage. We risk that we have fires. Temperature can reach easily up to 3000 degrees Celsius, and also could be a potential risk. So how can we improve the safety without adding more components? And Huawei has done this by analyzing all the PV strings on a millisecond basis. They're always analyzing and trying to find abnormalities in the voltage and the current. If an arc is classified as an arc, then their artificial intelligence, which is built in the inverter, will immediately shut down the system, and the arc will disappear. This is done in milliseconds. So if you will have, for example, a bad MC4 connector, you have maybe a commercial installation where you have not protected the cable correct, multiple things can cause these problems. And by just having the right software and of course the right inverter, you will have a much safer system compared to your competitors. So I think, for example, in the US, this is actually needed, where you can see that the Huawei competitors like Fronius, SMA, SolarEdge, etc., all of them have this arc fault current detection in their US inverters, but not in their European ones. Huawei has it in all inverters. And this is extremely beneficial for the customer. It doesn't cost much extra, and it comes plug and play standard, and the customer doesn't have to do anything. So I really want to stress this, that this is a really important safety feature, alongside with the already built-in safety features, such as surge protection devices on both the AC and DC side as a standard in the inverter. You can read much, much more about this. I will not speak about this. I could speak about this the whole morning, but you can read Huawei's white paper if you are more interested, or you could watch their video where they explain how they do this. You will of course get both mine and Lauri's presentation afterwards sent by email. And also, I forgot to mention that we are recording this webinar. So if you cannot be with us the whole time, we will send it to you by email, and then you can watch it or rewatch it if you want to do that in a later occasion. So this arc fault current interruption, AFCI, is automatically shutting down the system if it detects arcing. And this is met by the US standards. It's extremely interesting here to see that Huawei has connected multiple inverters that are all working and gathering data, and that data is then used to improve their algorithms. So it has a self-learning algorithm which always becomes better every time or for every day that passes. Which is also quite interesting is that everybody knows that the batteries in the world are increasing. More and more things are driven by batteries, and the batteries are starting to move to our homes. Although the sales of the batteries in whole Nordics, in both Sweden and in Finland, is, although like all PV systems are not sold with a battery. But what is very important here, and how Huawei sees it, is that maybe you don't need to buy the battery today, but for them it's very important that your inverter is battery compliant, which means that you should always be able to add a battery in the future. If you add it today, you're more than welcome. We will get back to their battery solution in just a minute. But for all Huawei inverters, from 3 to 10 kilowatts, all of them are prepared to be compatible with the Huawei battery, which means that you can buy the battery today, or you can wait a couple of years. But they are pretty sure that all the homeowners that has PV panels on the roof, they will most likely want to have a battery system as well in the future. When prices are moving down, or if the market and the energy market will be more beneficial for batteries. So your biggest takeaway from this picture is to prepare your customers for the future. Batteries will be a bigger part of your PV installations in the future, if it's not that already. If we'll be a little bit more practical here and look at the full residential solution for Huawei, we can see that we, of course, have their inverters, the smart solar inverters from 3 to 10 kilowatts. This new series is called M1 series. They also have a single phase series. This one is not that common in both Sweden and Finland. It's mostly 3-phase inverters. The inverters are compatible with the battery that I will get back to. And what is really interesting now is that Huawei have their own smart PV optimizers. Their optimizers are designed to handle PV modules, which has a power of up to 450 watts. So it's only one optimizer for all your modules. What is also interesting is that how Huawei want you to design your system. You can design your system one string without any optimizers. You don't need them. You don't need to have them. But you're 100% allowed to have them if you want to have optimizers on all your modules. It is actually possible to do both. You can have one string with optimizers and one string without. You could actually have a few optimizers on your most vulnerable modules. So everything from no optimizers to all optimizers are a possible solution for Huawei. And they basically let you as a PV installer design what is best for your customer and what is needed for the particular site. You can also see here that they have some communication dongles, with what is always recommended, and I always stress this, it's connect your inverter through cable. So use the fast Ethernet. It is possible to connect by WLAN. It is not recommended, especially not for me. You're always free to do what you want, but please use as much cabling as you can. But something that we see is more and more common is that installers want to use 4G and connect it to the mobile network, which will be a very stable solution and not require any cabling. It's much more stable than Wi-Fi, and it's also a much easier installation. So that's something, if you're not looking into this now, this will be much more common in the future. And of course, we also have the smart meter, or what Huawei calls it, the smart power sensor, which senses all the energy to and from the house, which is a requirement when you are dealing with a battery system. But I always recommend you to install this smart power sensor. For Huawei, this one is actually quite cheap, so it should not be a question about money. And then, of course, we also have the monitoring portal, which we are using to have a look at the system when we are not on site or just want to check in that everything is working as it should. So if we look at the product overview, we have the inverter, the M1 series, which is 3 to 10 kilowatts. For the bigger residential, we can have the M2. So this is the product series. So M2 is from 12 to 20. I will give you a bigger picture then, where you can see that there are some differences between these. And if you want to work with Huawei, I definitely suggest that you learn these series, because it will be much easier discussions and much clearer what is what. Then we had the smart meter, the communication device, which is the smart dongle for either Ethernet or Wi-Fi, or for the 4G, 2 different ones. We have the optimizer, only one optimizer to rule them all, the 450 watt version. And then we have the battery Luna that I will get back to. So on the residential side, Huawei inverters are having 2 MPPTs and 2 inputs. All of them can handle both Wi-Fi and fast Ethernet, or 4G is optional.
Yes. Tim, sorry to interrupt, but we have a question here. I'll translate from a participant, Antti Karjalainen here, about this 4G dongle here.
Yes.
That what kind of connection does it require, and how much data, what is the data capacity? through that?
If I'm not mistaken, it's around 50 megabytes per month. Something like that. It mostly depends on, for example, if you have optimizers, then you will have much data from each optimizer. If you have a battery, then you will have more data. If you only have an inverter, then you will have the least data.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different depending on your configuration.
And the question was also that is a traditional M2M connection okay, or does it require a faster?
It will work with an M2M for sure.
Okay.
What I see in Sweden is that many of our clients, they're buying prepaid versions of data plans, which are, for example, they buy 3 gigabytes, which is working for 12 months. So then they say to their customer, like, this SIM card is working for your first year, then the data is included. Then you're free to do how you want and increase that data or get another data plan or something like that. So that could be a quite easy fix and also quite cheap, both for you and for the customer. Thank you.
Yep.
If we take a look at the functionalities of the inverters, we see that it has the arc fault current interruption, the safety. They have a PID recovery functionality, which is taking care of the PID problems which could happen in the modules. They have a ripple control device, which is required in some countries. And it's also compatible with the optimizer and with the battery. We will dig a lot more into the details of the optimizer. It of course supports module level monitoring. It communicates through the DC bus, which means that when you connect multiple modules or inverters in the same string, the communication is done in the DC cabling, and you don't have to have any wires or any wireless connection. Everything is done in the DC bus, which is also quite interesting with the optimizers, is that if you have a fully optimized system with optimizers on each modules, you could potentially have a 0-volt system if it's shut off. So you will measure 0 volts with your multimeter when the system is powered off, which is really good for the safety. To be able to verify your installation and see that everything is working, you can switch your multimeter to measure impedance, and then you will measure 1 kilo ohm impedance per optimizer. So if you have 15 modules with optimizers on each, you will measure 15 kilo ohms of impedance. So it's very easy to verify that you are on the right way. And we can also see here that the smart power sensor gets delivered with 3 current transformers. The ones that are included is 250 amps. And for 3-phase, of course, there are a single-phase version if you're needing that. If you're connecting your inverter to a smart dongle, either one of them, you could have multiple inverters that are connected to the same master inverter, which means that you only need 1 smart dongle for 10 devices. And just a small information is that the smart power sensor is counted as 1 device. So it's not inverter, it's devices. So make sure to contact us if you feel a bit unsafe which communication is most suitable for your project. And then of course we have the new Luna batteries. We received the first shipments a couple of weeks ago. It's an extremely interesting battery system. I will dig down deeper into that in just a second. But just for now, you could see here that it comes in 3 different sizes, 5, 10, and 15 kilowatt hours. It's a lithium iron phosphate battery, which is the safe lithium ion battery chemistry. And what's also really nice with Huawei is that they have a lot of documentation and also quite many installation videos. So if you're interested in see how is this done practically, I want to see it with my own eyes. I don't want to read the 200-page manual, even if I suggest that you should do it before your first installation. But it's possible that you take a look at the videos. You will learn a lot by just looking at how the professionals are doing the installation, and also give you some tips and tricks along the way. Just click on the links here when you receive this presentation and you will be right off. So if we take a look at this new optimizer that Huawei released during the last year, you will see that it's a extremely compact design. It's extremely small compared to its competitors. It's also much smaller than Huawei's first generation optimizers. So this is actually the second generation. So Huawei has been working with optimizers for quite many years, but they have not worked with them as they were not compatible directly with the inverter. But right now, in the current version, it is a chip included in the inverter which communicates to all the optimizers. And this makes it very easy to install and no extra cabling required, only the DC bus. What is really interesting and easy for you to install is that you only need to take care about one single inverter. And that one is suitable for 450 watts. So it will be suitable for most modules on the market. You need to make sure that, and we will take a look at this on the next slides, that how will I verify that my module is compatible to the optimizer? But for all of you that are not working with optimizers, this is a schematic of how that system looks like. And I think it's important to stress here, for you are not that familiar with optimized solutions, is that you can see here, you have a module, but the module, the plus and minus are only connected to the optimizer. No modules, plus and minus, are connected to each other. So all the modules are connected to each optimizer. This allows the optimizers to control the output voltage and current, and also gather much data about each individual module, which will make it extremely easy and for you to be able to see how much is my modules producing right now, and you will get the total total vision of how the system is doing. Why then should you have optimizers? And I think it's a quite big misunderstanding in why you should have optimizers. Many people are saying that you should have optimizers if you are having a lot of troubles with shadow. The problem, or how I see it, is that it doesn't matter which module you have. If you have shading, it's like the purpose of having a solar module is that it should gather the sun's should gather the energy from the sun. If it's not reaching the module, then we have a problem itself. It doesn't matter if we have an optimizer or not. We should always keep our modules in the sun. It sounds very silly and very easy, but that's like the basics. We have multiple benefits of having an optimized solution, and with the Huawei solution, you could choose to not have optimizers, or you could have them. And here on this slide, you could see all the benefits of having an optimized solution. When we're having an optimized module, we could see that the output power of each module is perfectly matched. This means that the MPP, like the maximum power point, is obtained for each individual module and not for the whole string, which is the most common to deal with when it comes to string inverters. This is on module level optimizing. It is possible if you turn off your system. Either you could do this by turning off AC, turning off DC, or you could actually connect a remote control by cable to your inverter, which is called a fireman switch. This one can be connected directly to your inverter and send a stop signal, which makes the whole system go down and take down the voltage to a safe level. You will also obtain the module level view of each module you have. You will know exactly how much kilowatt hours your modules are producing, and you can also analyze a lot of the data that is gathered. So for all the tech geeks, this is an extremely fun system to have. The optimizers are also affecting the design of the system. You could have longer strings since the voltage is controlled within the optimizers. This means that we could have longer strings. Longer strings needs earlier startup times and later closing times for the inverter. The operational hours are increased. This could also increase the DC to AC oversizing capabilities and also save you a lot of the cabling, since you can have fewer strings in total. So there could be multiple benefits of having an optimized system. And this is just to illustrate how the system design will vary. When you are designing a PV system with Huawei without optimizers, we are taking care of the temperature, of course, because it's the day when we have the lowest temperature and a sunny sky, we will have the highest voltage in the system. And in this case, they are using a random module that I don't know. It looks like something between 300 to 350 watts. That one is outputting 52.2 volts, which means that if we are calculating how many modules we should have in one string, we take 1000 divided by the highest obtained voltage during that year, and that is 52.2. That is rounded down, and that will give us 19 modules. Although, if we have the optimizers, we see in the optimizer data sheet that we are allowed to connect 10,000 watts in one single string. So if we take 10,000 divided by 350, which is the power of one module, we will receive 28 modules. This means that we could, if we have optimizers on all modules, have a string of length 28. To be able to verify that our module is compatible with the Huawei optimizer, it is three things we need to check. First, we need to see that the maximum input DC power is not higher than 450. For our example here, we have a 350 watt module, which is much less than 450. We need to take care of the voltage. We will see when we look at the lowest temperature and see how much have the open circuit voltage increased to during the coldest day of the year. In this case, the voltage is 52.2, which is well below the highest limit, which is allowed of 80 volts. We also need to take care of the short circuit current. That the highest current that is allowed of short circuit is 13 amps, and the module is not even outputting 10. So we have a green checkbox for all our three. We have voltage, we have current, and we have power. We need to check them all together, but one by one. So this is just an example how it could look like. With optimizer, we will have a flexible design. Instead of having multiple strings, we could use longer strings and fewer strings, which will be beneficial in quite many ways. And as I told you before, don't be afraid if you're not measuring any volts when you have installed your first Huawei optimized system. You will see 0 volts on your multimeter. But switch it to impedance, and then you will see 1 kilo ohm per optimizer. And this is also a quite interesting question. And you in Finland, you're much alike us in Sweden. We, or at least I, have identified 3 different types of customers. And I think this is just a general advice to you, that when you're coming to a customer, you should really try to identify which of these 3 is the most important for this customer. It could, of course, be a combination of all or of 2 of them. But we could definitely identify these 3 types when it comes to customer that want to invest in PV. We, of course, have the first one, the tech geeks. Now PV systems are, they are almost like all the tech geeks, they're already invested in PV. Like it's starting to get mainstream. But technology, interest for technology, the coolness of the system, this is something they care about. So this is one important group of people. The second group of people, they care about the money. Is it beneficial for me? How much does it cost? When is my return on investment? How big is my return of investments? They think only in terms of money, not in kilowatt hours. Last but not least, we of course have the care for the environment. It is actually something we care about a lot in the Nordics. Everybody wants to contribute, and by investing in PV, it's definitely one of give the house owners one way of actually doing something practical for the environment. So all these 3 are important by themselves and also all together. But I would say that we have one more driver of investing in PV, and that's independence. People do want to stay self-sustainable. I usually say it's a Swedish thing, but I realize that this is very typical in both Norway and Finland as well. We up here in the north, we really want to take care of ourselves. We do not want to be depending on the government, or I want to be really resilient, like the feeling I can handle this myself, even if it's a blackout. So people are investing in PV to be more independent. And this is also something that is quite hard to touch. It's a feeling, and it's quite hard to set a price on. And with that, of course, it comes with battery systems. Because if you have a solar system, you will only have energy when the sun is shining. But with a battery system, you will have energy at many more occasions, and you could also do much more with your system and be much more flexible and definitely be more independent, especially in terms of outage. But there are actually quite many different drivers for investing in batteries. This is the most common one. Like the sun is shining in the middle of the day. We are mostly using energy in the morning and in the end of the day when the sun is not shining. So by just having a battery, we can balance this different out. In Sweden, we have some tax schemes that are pushing the customers or the PV investors to sell the electricity. I know in Finland that you don't have, which means that you should more take care of your own produced electricity and increase your own consumption. And by using batteries, that's definitely one way of doing this. When we have an outage, batteries is actually needed. And if you look very closely to this picture, even if it's dark, you could see that there are more houses which has PV systems. This one in the back, for example. So having a PV system is not equal to be able to have islanded system in case of a blackout. So that's needed a special system to be able to handle blackouts. In Sweden, we have quite much problem actually in our power grid due to congestion and to capacity. We have energy in our hydropower dams up in the north, but we don't have enough capacity to transfer it to south of Sweden where the energy is consumed. And in Sweden, you're charged by the amount of kilowatts you're using if you're using more than 63 amps. So to just use batteries for power control could actually be a quite good investment, both in terms of decreasing your fixed costs, but also controlling your connection to the power grid in terms of money, because that one is usually fixed. But with a battery, you could actually do something about your connection costs. But there are actually quite a few more applications of batteries. For example, this is a quite well-known battery installation in Australia, where a big battery pack was installed very close to a wind farm, where its only job is to absorb and charge when the energy price is low and sell when the electricity price is high. So it's just a really good tradesman here, Elon Musk. And you could of course also use batteries to avoid invest in your grid. Right now, it's not many grid owners in the world that are allowed to use batteries for this, but this could postpone, or it could decrease the need of new cables, because when we're talking about increasing the grid capacity, we're talking millions in terms of euros. So it will always be very big investments needed, but maybe with batteries, we can be a bit smarter and use our capacity much better and our money more wisely. So the need for batteries are, depending on where you are in the world, you could use your battery for multiple purposes. And I will show you a picture here of the moon, and that's why Huawei has called their battery solution Luna. So Huawei has just released their new battery system. I showed you a couple of slides before. This battery system is scalable, which means that it's possible to use it from the smallest system, 5 kilowatt hours, up to 2 full racks beside each other. And one rack could be 15 kilowatt hours, which means that a fully expanded system is 30 kilowatt hours. If you want to build the biggest system possible, Huawei allows you to connect 3 inverters together. And since each inverter can handle 30 kilowatt hours, which means that we can buy battery systems in the size from 5 to 90 kilowatt hours. So it could be very much expandable in both in terms of inverter capacity and of stored energy capacity. You could see here in the table below, for example, if you want to install 15 kilowatt hours, you could see here that if I put a horizontal line here, you will have 5 kilowatt power and 15 kilowatt hours. So keep in mind that the battery always has a power and a capacity. And if you're increasing to 2 towers, then you could, for example, have a 20 kilowatt hour system with 10 kilowatts of power and 20. So this is how you read this table. It's very useful if you are a bit unfamiliar what you can do and cannot do with the system. Since Huawei could be your all-in-one partner, where you have the inverter, the optimizer, the battery, the smart power sensor, the communication app, and also all your warranties, it's definitely a one-stop shop. One size will fit all. We could build everything from the smaller system to the bigger systems, and everything is commissioned through the Huawei app. And this is actually really nice that we know from the start that these products are 100% compatible with each other, and you will always have all your warranty from one place. So it's quite easy to be a Huawei partner here. What is interesting with this battery system is that the battery has a built-in energy optimizer. This is, in technical terms, a DC-DC optimizer, which is very, very much familiar with the optimizers that we're using to our modules. But this DC-DC optimizer are optimizing one battery module. This means that we can connect new battery modules in the future, since each battery module are controlled individually. So, for example, it doesn't matter if one of the batteries are old and are losing power. Since each of the battery modules are controlled individually, you will always have the best performance from each module. And this is really good, both in terms of that we could expand the system, and also if you have more degradation, for example, in one battery module, it will not affect the rest of the system. So this is a very smart and well-engineered system. What is also very interesting is that you will receive 100% state of charge. This means that the battery is possible to charge to 100% and then discharge to 0%. And you are able to retrieve all those 5 kilowatt hours in each module. You actually pay, and that's what you get. What is also very interesting with this system is that it's suitable for off-grid applications. So if you will have a power outage, the Huawei Luna battery can provide you with power even if you have a power outage. This is working due to the Huawei backup box. So this is an add-on that you will add to your system. So you will have your traditional system here with the inverter. You will have your PV modules, either with or without optimizers. You will have a rack of batteries, maybe here 15 kilowatt hours. When you have all these, you will add a backup box. This backup box has 2 different outputs. We have one output to the normal loads. So when we have the grid, everything is working. We have power to all our loads. If there are a power outage, what will happen inside the backup box, which is pre-configured with communication to the inverter and also with relays that are sensing that we have a power outage, this one will be removed. We will open the relays and disconnect this part of the electricity system in your home. And we will only focus on the critical loads. This is really good because we can then focus on this single phase 16 amp connection to our critical loads. This could, for example, be your router, it could be your fridge, it could be multiple things that you want to power during a power outage. This is also very smart, since the non-critical loads you should really not use when you have a power outage, because you want to save your energy as much as you can to be able to sustain your system for the longest period of time. And if you do not want to have this functionality, this backup box is totally optional. So this is only for the customer that really cares about being able to sustain a power outage. It's also good here to mention that the battery system for the three-phase inverters are not designed to be off-grid 100% of the time. This is only, it will work, but it is designed to be connected to the grid most of the time and only handle a few power outages. So it's not an off-grid inverter. That's important to mention, but it will definitely handle the power outages in this configuration that I just showed you. Any question? Lauri, when was the last time you had a power outage in Finland? You live in Helsinki, so not that much, I guess.
Yeah, not that often actually, but I think in the countryside it might happen actually. When we have a lot of snow on the trees, that's a typical situation in the winter, and there are some areas. I mean, even areas in the city can be affected.
Yeah.
So it's not uncommon, but of course, I think that when we live in a developed country like Finland and Sweden, I think the difference is that the time, well, the outages are not so long lasting. I think they will be fixed quite quickly. So
yeah, it's good, because otherwise you need quite much battery power.
Yes.
All right, thank you. We will continue during this last part, discussing a little bit more. Yeah, we have a question.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Rumei Cupido. I'm the new marketing director for Huawei, so I'm sitting in with Jarkko without Antira. Taking in because I've been doing some research around traveling around Helsinki and most of the countryside area, because we've been very surprised by how much we've seen people invest in the countryside. But if I've discovered areas in Finland, for example, where you cannot put solar. So where I've been thinking about the battery capacity if there is no grid outlet. So there's islands. Finland is made out of lakes and islands. And I have been thinking about reaching, because I had seen on one island where we've been traveling not so long ago that there was one small solar connection. So, but if there is no grid on this, how can you use this battery capacity or sell this battery capacity to a customer like that is looking for solar?
If you are not connected to the grid and you don't have a grid, it is not possible. For example, you live on an island. Then I will not suggest you to go buy the Huawei three-phase inverters, but actually their single-phase inverters are suitable for off-grid application, and only off-grid applications are working. So if it's a smaller system, for example, a summer house, or we're not talking about industrial applications here, it's definitely possible to use the L1 series, which is the single phase inverters from Huawei. Yeah. And they are also compatible with this Luna battery. If we're talking about bigger systems, more industrial or like really high powered solutions, then we will probably need something else. Then I would suggest a hydrogen solution or a diesel backup solution or something like that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. So if we leave the residential side and look at the much bigger system, the PV parks, the more industrial applications, we see that Huawei has inverters in the range of 3 to 110 kilowatts for normal 400 volt grid systems. They also have a few bigger inverters up to 250 kilowatts, but they are 800 volts inverters, and I have purposely left them out of this presentation. So the portfolio is even bigger of what we see here in this this overview. But for the for Huawei, if we look at them like your preferred solution, you could see that they can handle the residential systems from the smallest single-phased to three-phase systems, but also on the more commercial and industrial applications, we see that we have inverters up to 60 to 100 kilowatts. And also on the utility side, we have really big inverters. And if you go to Huawei webpage and look for their reference cases, you can see that Huawei has been part of many, many utility projects all around the world, everything from hot deserts to really cold areas, and for really big projects. So you have something from the smallest to the biggest system, which is quite impressive that they can handle this whole spectrum of products. When we're talking about the commercial and industrial applications, we see that it's actually, for me, I think it's a bit easier since we have less components. It is, for example, here, we have the inverters, we cascade connect them together, and one of the inverters are connected to this very important thing, which is called the smart logger. This smart logger can handle up to 80 inverters. So we will have the possibility to build really big systems. We can, of course, connect it to 4G as well. And we can, for the commercial and the industrial applications, we have a lot of possibilities with this smart logger. I can explain it like this: it speaks all the languages. So depending on which protocols and which information you will need to feed into some other systems, the smart logger will do it, and will do it very good. So I will show you like the portfolio for the bigger inverters. But before that, I will show you here the big overview of the Huawei products. We can actually start here. The M1 series, 3 to 10 kilowatts, what was what I started describing. These ones are, all of them are compatible with, they have overvoltage protection, they have arc fault current interruption, they can handle the smart dongle and the smart dongle 4G, and the smart logger, of course. We can use optimizers together with them, and best of all, they are all compatible with the Luna battery. If we take a look at the little bigger inverters, the M2 series, that one starts from 12 up to 20 kilowatts. And the only difference between M1 and M2 is that M2 does not support the Luna batteries. Otherwise, it is very much the same. And then, of course, you could see here that it can handle larger currents on the MPPT. What is also approaching our warehouse just in this moment is the new release of the M3 series. This one we will dig a bit deeper into in the next slides. But the new M3 series is, as you can see here, it's compatible with all the safety features. It's compatible with optimizers. So with the Huawei system now, it's possible to have big installations, a few hundred kilowatts, where you could choose if you want to have optimizers or not. Or you could have parts of your system where you have optimizers connected. So the M3 series will be extremely good, for example, for agriculture applications due to its arc fault current interruption, and also since it's prepared with overvoltage protection on both DC and AC. And as you also can see here, all the cooling is passive for all these bigger inverters, all the way up to 60 kilowatt, doesn't require a fan. It's only for the more PV park inverters, such as the 100 KTL, where we have 100 kilowatts of capacity. We of course don't need optimizers or batteries for these systems, and we also have a really generous current input, which will be very suitable for the new bifacial product modules that are coming to the market. So by using this one, we can really navigate through the whole portfolio of the Huawei batteries, and it's always good to go back to this one if we are a bit unsure about the data or what is compatible with what. So the new M3 series is 30, 36, and 40 kilowatts. So this one will be really beneficial for the mid-sized projects. It will be very, it is, as all Huawei inverters, extremely reliable. It can handle a high current on the input side from the modules. It is very light, and it has a very broad range of MPPT that it can work with, and also suitable for mounting outside since it's IP66. The other bigger inverters for Huawei, the already existing modules, are the 50 and 60 KTL. This one is equipped with 6 MPPTs, which is suitable for example, east-west configurations, and can handle multiple modules in many different orientations. Usually these 60 kilowatt inverters are connected to a smart logger. For the bigger 100 kilowatt inverter, this inverter was actually used last year in Sweden for both the biggest and the second biggest PV park. The biggest was 20 megawatts, and the second biggest from last year was 15. And the 100 KTL was used in both. So we in Sweden, we really believe in Huawei. You can also see here that they are improving this M1 version, and they will release an even upgraded version during 2021. But it's already equipped with everything you need in terms of MPPTs and inputs, and also, of course, suitable with the smart logger for the communication. So for all the inverters from the smallest 3 kilowatts up to 40 kilowatts, the M1, M2, and M3 inverters, we can use the WLAN and the smart dongle. This is a really, really cost-effective solution to connect your system to get the overview and the communication up. If you have higher demands and you, for example, need to connect yourself with MBus or RS485, etc., you should definitely go by the smart logger. And that one can also handle many more devices if you're building a big system. So this is how it could look like on an industry application. For example, if we have 3 or more, of course, inverters, we will connect them, cascade connect them. We will connect them to the smart logger. The smart logger can then speak and connect its data to either different management systems. It could send to other systems. We can also gather data, for example, from external power meters. So in this configuration, we could have many things connected in to this PV system. It has so many different applications that we don't have time for them now. But just know that the smart logger is one of the components that are suitable for almost anything that you could throw at them. A little specialty which you can use if you require optimizers is that you could actually mix and match which Huawei inverters you like together in the same system. And for example, if you have a smaller inverter, let's say a 20 kilowatt inverter, that one is compatible with the optimizers, and maybe you have a small section in one of the sections of your roof that is a bit shadowed. Then you could use optimizers in that part, and for the other modules, you connect them to the larger inverters of different kinds. But you can still use the cheap dongle connection for your connection solution. So this is also really, really cost effective and also quite easy to install. If we dig a little bit deeper into the commercial products of Huawei, we can see that the voltage range where they are working is from 200 volts up to 1000, which is extremely broad. Also, that the Huawei inverters are possible to sustain voltages up to 1100 volts, which means that we could have longer strings, and we could also start working earlier in the morning and later in the day. But we also need to take care of a few things. If we are designing a Huawei commercial system, the inverter itself can handle 1100 volts. But what we really need to ensure is that our cables, our connectors can handle 1100 volts if we are designing a system like that. And of course that we have a solar module that is also suitable for 1100 volts. Usually it's 1000 or 1500. So we need to make sure that we have the 1500 volt version of the cable, connectors, and solar modules. And this is actually a quite big pitfall for new designers to Huawei that are not used to this higher voltage. And please verify with us at Senergia if you need guidance on how to design the system. We will definitely help you. Depending on the voltage in the system, we need to make sure that all our products are compatible with that voltage. And that voltage is usually 1500 volts when we are designing bigger Huawei systems. So this could include, of course, modules, DC breakers, fireman switches, cables, and also DC fuses if they are used. We actually have in our blog, we have been writing quite a lot about the different connectors and the certifications that are required to do this 100% correctly. And the DC connectors, I want to stress, this is an important topic. It has been quite much discussions in Sweden lately, and it's actually only one way of dealing with this, and this is to use the correct connectors of all your products. And the rule is quite simple. You should use the same male and female connector for all your MC4 connectors. So for example, if you have a Huawei 100 KTL, then you will use the Staubli MC4 connector. If you are using, for example, a Trina module, then you will have the TS4 connector. So always make sure that you have the correct MC4 connector for your products. If you are a bit unsure, do not hesitate to contact us. That was actually it for today. Have we had any questions?
Onko kysymyksiä, questions, kirjallisesti tai suullisesti?
Otherwise, if you after this weekend realize that you had a question, do not hesitate to contact me or Lauri or Kalle. We are, we really want to help you.
One question.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of solutions for monitoring multiple systems, or is it just a connection for one system at a time? So is there any monitoring system available?
Yes. So Huawei has their own monitoring system. They actually migrated to a brand new monitoring system just a couple of weeks ago. And you as an installer will have the complete look of all your system in one view. And then for each site, you will have multiple users, for example, the end users, so they could log into the app and see their system. Was that the complete answer that you were looking for?
Yes, somewhat. And the additional question is that I assume that it requires data logger for each inverter, or how will it be set up?
Yeah, it's definitely recommended to have either a data logger or the smart dongle.
So the smart dongle is also enough
that
for...
is also, that's the cheaper option if you're only looking to monitor your system in the easiest and cheapest way. Then the logger is perfectly fine.
Okay, good, thanks.
The only thing that you need to make sure is, for example, if you're using for example, if you're building a big solar park, the 100 kTL is, for example, not suitable for the dongle. Then you will need the smart logger. So the communication is, I would say, the most tricky part to start and know which components you need. But for now, I will say it will be very easy for the smaller systems. For all of these ones up to 40 kilowatts, I would say that all our customers will use the smart dongle because it's cheapest and it will do the job. For more commercial applications, they will add the smart logger, or if they're building a solar park. So that's the basic rule.
Thank you.
Anything else that somebody wants to have a question about?
Yeah, I was wondering about the stage of charge levels. Is there any recommendations like?
The battery, when it comes pre-configured from the factory, it uses a charging window of 85%, so it's leaving 15% out as standard. But it's possible then to configure it to 100% if you want to. But of course, as with all lithium-ion batteries, you will have a longer lifetime of the battery if you are using it more wisely. So it's a bit up to the customer itself or you as an installer to guide them what is best for them. But you have the opportunity to do how you want.
Okay, but the recommendation is between 0 and 85%.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I would like to thank you, everybody who participated here. We will send out the presentation and the recording to everybody who registered. If you have any colleagues that you thought they should really see this, please forward the email to them. If you have any further questions, do not hesitate to contact us. And I wish you a good Friday and a great weekend. So take care, everybody. See you.
Okay, kiitoksia. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kiitoksia.
Kiitos.
Kiitos.